Hello everybody, and thanks for checking out this video here on G4G Games for Gamers. I'm your host, Napalm Dawn, and this video today is going to be about rare and unique mounts in the World of the Warcraft. Stab! Take the sword! So, in the over 10 years that I have been playing World of Warcraft, I've been fortunate enough to go ahead and accrue several rare and unique mounts along the way. And this is with varying degrees of success in actually farming them. So I'm going to go ahead and touch upon a few mounts really quickly that I have direct experience with but don't own. The Ashes of Alara drops off of Kalthus in Tempest Keep. This was a recent acquisition for the girlfriend when the girlfriend and I were doing mount farming. She's currently out of WoW time and busy, so she hasn't been in it for a while, but one of the more recent mounts that she picked up when we were duo farming was Ashes of Alara. One of the other mounts that I've had direct experience with is the Flame Talon of Alisrazor. I have a guild member who has this particular mount and is currently not playing the game, hasn't played for about 2 years now, but this is one of the mounts that I always associate with her, as she got this in one of our raids and sported this mount quite frequently. Over in Dragon Soul is Experiment 12B. We actually saw quite a lot of these drop when we were raiding Dragon Soul, and one of my guildmates who lives in New Zealand's got one. Also one of our main tanks who hasn't played through the majority of Warlords over here, he has one of these. We got quite a few of them. I unfortunately never won any of the roles on that. So, some of the ones that I have, the Albino Drake, which is a achievement-based Drake. Back in the TBC era when this one was first released, this was called the Virginity Drake. It was called the Virginity Drake because of the fact that in order to get the amount of mounts necessary to get this one, it was believed that you were a lifeless, sweaty nerd. Nowadays, this one is very low on the totem pole of those kinds of achievements. The Netherwing Drakes. I have all of these at this point. Basically, this was a TBC huge rep grind, probably the worst rep grind to date in the game. Not, well, to date back then. This was a very, very long grind to get exalted with the Netherwing faction. And as a druid, we were able to cheat. Druids who did the Epic Flight Form quest got a relic, or basically, you don't get these anymore, but the relic is an old slot that's been phased out of the game. It was over here. You got a relic that said Swift Flight Form is quicker, and it was easier to go through the races when you were on a druid. Also, because we were flying and not mounted, if we hit things, we only got knocked back slightly, we didn't get dismounted. So druids were able to cheese the Netherwing Drake quest line very, very easily. The Black Drake, of course, drops off of Sartharian. Black Primal Raptor, I sort of forget exactly where this one dropped. I know it says Cracked Primal Egg. I don't remember this one too much. Black War Beast, this comes from killing all of the opposing factions' leaders. The Bloodbathed Frostbrood Vanquishers. This is one of my favorite Glory of the XX Raider ones. This is the Glory of the Ice Crown Raider on 10-man. So this is your ICC Heroics and Achievements. This was one of my favorite all-time mounts when I got it. I was on this mount quite a lot. Blue Drake drops off of Malagos and Eye of Eternity out on the west coast of Wrath. The Blue Proto-Drake, this now drops off of Scotty in Utgard Pinnacle. Several of the Blue Drakes over there had a lot of issues back in Wrath. They toggled around quite frequently. Basically, what happened was they bounced around for a little bit, and at one point, because Oculus sucked so much that they basically would bait you into doing this particular instance by giving it a chance to drop one of the blue drakes. But now it has settled into blue drake coming off of Malagos and the proto drake coming off of Scotty. Scotty Dotty, we love the Scotty. The Cobalt War Talbook is from doing the Maghar rep in original Outlands. This is where everybody would farm the ogre beads until your hands fell off. Corehound is not that rare of a mount, but it is not accessible anymore. It was from doing the rebirth of Molten Core right around the time when people were hitting 100 in early Warlords of Draenor. Corrupted Firehawk comes from doing the Glory of the Firelands Raider. These ones over here, the Dark Talbuks, are the ones from when you turn in the Hala tokens. In order to do this, your faction needs to own Hala in original the Grand Outlands. And then you turn in your tokens. What's really cool is you now have garrison missions that feed you tokens. So these are accessible today. Dreadraven comes from the Warlords Collector's Edition. The Fiery Warhorse is one of my most recent achievements. The very night that we did Ashes of Alar, and the girlfriend was absolutely beside herself, we continued farming mounts and we went in the Karazhan and I got attunement. So I got this on the same night that she got Ashes. It's a fairly nice secondary prize. Flying Carpet is something tailors make, but what is very interesting about the Flying Carpet is there was a period of time in Wrath of the Lich King when the Flying Carpet was considered a vehicle. WoW had just introduced vehicles to us in that expansion, so like everything in its mother was a vehicle back then. Well, the Flying Carpet was no exception. Because it was a vehicle, it could be used to cheese several things, including the Minefield achievement in Wrath, because you got on it and you've literally floated over all the mines and you wouldn't get dismounted and you could get into the center quickly. That's how I got the achievement. Garn Nighthowl is a outdoor boss in Frostfire Ridge. He one-shots people, so you have to fight him and his little minions in a raid to throw bodies against him to be eaten while you bloodlust and DPS him down. When I fought for him, I was in a line of 14 people to get him, so I had to kill him. I mean, I spent hours in this group doing it. I think it was like 13 or 14, and the guy right when I was supposed to get it, there was somebody who ninja'd it. So I had to do it an extra time. The Great Brewfest Kodo is from the seasonal thing that just despawned, which is the Dire Brew. There is the Kodo and there is the Ram, and it drops off of doing the Dire Brew Fest. Ironically enough, you have Grim Patron as one of the best decks in Hearthstone, and did I just get a buff there? That was weird. You have the Grim Patron over there in Hearthstone, which is one of the best decks, and that goes along with Dire Brew because that's down in that whole bar area. Headless Horseman's Mount. I have had this one for a long time. I think I earned this mount back in 2010 or something like that. This is one of my favorite mounts to be on for a little while. The Imperial Quillen was the Pandaria Collector's Edition mount. I kind of dislike so many things about Pandaria now. I'm never on that mount. However, the Jade Primal Direhorn is one of the most sought after primordials. This is from doing Warbringers that exist on the map out in Mists of Pandaria. This is pretty easy to solo now. Korkron Warwolf is from doing Garrosh Hellscream ahead of the curve. Lifebinder's Handmaiden. This was from doing Deathwing on Heroic. We got this when it was active content. I also have one of these, the Onyx Cloud Serpent. This is one that I like to be on for a little while. I actually had a Druid outfit that really matched this one. Ownaxe. This was one of my favorite all-time flying mounts. I basically stumbled upon Ownaxe and could not believe my luck on this one. I was zoning into Deepholm on my Death Knight, which at the time was like my third or fourth 85. And I was zoning into Deepholm in Cataclysm on that scripted mount where you're on the Wyvern and you're following Thrall's wife and you're spiraling down towards the Temple of Earth and you have no control until you land. Well, the girlfriend had given up farming TLPD in Wrath and moved over to attempting to get a Ownaxe in Deepholm. At the time, we believed it would be an easier farm than TLPD, a more frequent one, but as time would go on, it would prove that Ownaxe was almost as rare. Well, she would often AFK by her spot in the Temple of Earth, you know, do whatever it was she was doing and just wait for NPC scanner to go off. Well, one day, when I was on the Death Knight spiraling down, NPC scan went off and was like, hey, Ownaxe is up. And I'm like, yeah, right. It's the corpse or it's going to be in combat. I'm sure Ownaxe is not up for me to kill. But now I'm kind of getting anxious. I'm like, come on, stupid script. Let's go. I want to land already. I land, and the Temple of Earth was rather bustling, considering it was 3:30 in the morning. I was like, what? There's a lot of people down here. But now I'm kind of like anxious to get outside and see if Ownaxe is up. So I walk out of the temple, and there's several lions just floating there, and nobody's moving. I'm like, this is not right. How is people not moving to get Ownaxe? So I fly up there, and sure enough, Ownaxe is there, and she's alive, and she's not in combat. So I immediately tab over to Steam. I'm like, girlfriend, Ownaxe is up. Get in here, it's up. Go. And she's like, no, there's no way I'm going to make it over there. I'm in TF2 at the time. By the time I get out of TF2, log into WoW, fly out there, it's not going to happen. Somebody's going to get it. Get the mount yourself. Go get it now. I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, yes. I'm like, you going to fucking hate me? She's like, no, get it. So I start combat with Ownaxe, and it's a scripted event, and I'm fighting off waves and waves of drakes while I'm riding around Ownaxe, around Deepholm. And nothing seems to be changing. So I message her on Steam again. I'm like, Ownaxe is getting hurt from my diseases, but I don't know what to do. And she's like, kill Ownaxe. I'm like, what? She's like, kill the fucking Drake. I'm going, I don't sit here and defend it? No, kill the Drake. So I beat up Ownaxe. I parachute to the ground. The corpse comes down. I loot it. I get Ownaxe. And some little gnome is standing there and just starts clapping for me. Because that was somebody who knew that it was up and came out to get it. Raven Lord. This took me 3 years to get the Raven Lord. I was farming this at times daily. Ever since you could solo it relatively easy. Oh my god, I put a lot of time into getting the Raven Lord. For those who don't know, there was a time period where only druids could get Anzu. Well, not only druids could get Anzu. Only druids could spawn Anzu. You had a moonstone from doing the epic flight form quest that summoned him. If you didn't have a druid, you couldn't get the Raven Lord to pop. Now it's available for anybody in the game, and these even drop in dungeon bags. I have several guild members who got their Raven Lords just by being the person that the queue needs. I went in there one day and I said, that's it. I swear to God, if this cockfluffer doesn't drop his mount, I'm going to punch somebody in the face. And that's the day that it finally dropped after almost 3 years of farming that stupid thing. On the flip side of it is Baron Von Pants's Death Charger. We used to call him Baron Von Pants because in vanilla, he dropped the pants for your dungeon tier set. I got this in less than 5 times of trying to farm it, and this was considered one of the rarest mounts in the game for many, many years. One of those ones that had a below 1% drop rate. I got this during a time period in which Riven Drake was bugged. We all know that to go through and get it, you have to go into Undead Stratholme, you have to defeat the bosses in the Ziggurats, which opens the gate, which lets you do the waves in front of Riven Drake and then kill Riven Drake and has a chance to drop. When I was farming it, the crates inside of Undead Strath were bugged. If you opened the first aid crates or the Red Cross ones that are in there that would drop the holy water, they would trigger all the gates to open without having to kill the bosses. So I would go in as a druid, I would stealth, I would open the crates, I would avoid combat. It was less than 5 minutes per run. And just like crate, gate would open, fight, Riven Dare, no drop, reset instance. I was able to get this mount in less amount of times than it takes to lock out the dungeon. What that means is when you do a dungeon, you get done with it, you can right click your unit frame and tell your dungeons to reset, which starts them back at square zero, and you can farm them fresh again. I didn't even have to get that lockout. You get locked out at 5. I never even hit the lockout. So I certainly paid in spades for having to wait 3 years to get Anzu when I got Riven Dare in less than 5 attempts. Rusted Proto-Drake comes from doing Glory of the Oldar Raider on 10-man. Sunreaver Dragonhawk is the Sunreaver's rep. Exalted. Swift White Hawkstrider, or as it is known to some people, the Great White Cock. I got this one relatively early on when Magister's Terrace was active content. Fought Heroic Kale in there and won this on a 99. Swift Brewfest Ram. This is another one of the Diabrew mounts that just ended recently. You can farm for these as much as your heart desires when Diabrew is up. I was actually in a run in the TVC era where both the Ram and the Kodo dropped on the same run. Swift Zulian Panther. This is kind of another one that is slightly tied to the girlfriend. When we had heard that Zul'Gurub was going away as a raid and was changing into a 10-man or 5-man instance, the girlfriend and I went back and farmed ZG heavily for the mounts in there. She has the Tiger, and I have the Panther. There was another one that I basically just let her get sight unseen and didn't compete for. So she's got Ashes of Alar and the Tiger, and I have the Tarzan mount, and I have the Panther. Twilight Drake, it's another one that is tied to Sartharian and the Obsidian Sanctum. Twilight Harbinger, this is from doing Glory of the Dragon Soul Raider. This is the heroics and the achievements in Dragon Soul. Warlord's Death Wheel is the Horde mount that won the motorcycle competition from the beginning of Warlords. Warsong Direfang is one of the ones that drops from the world bosses in Tannin Jungle. I think I got this one off of Terrafist. I keep forgetting I actually have this one. Armored Brown Bear comes... Oh, yeah, the other one, in case I forgot to talk about it up here, the other War Bear is the one that drops when you defeat all of the opposing faction's leaders. So this requires sneaking into the enemy cities and PvPing the bosses down. Onyx Cloud Serpent, this is one of the ones that I was really happy about. Really enjoyed getting that one. Korkron Wolf is from defeating Garrosh Hellscream ahead of the curve. Like that one a lot. So the Warlord's Death Wheel, that's that. And then we kind of hit a gap over here where none of these are particularly interested. This is from the farm mount. The Bronze Drake comes from doing Culling of Stratholme in a limited amount of time. Almost everybody gets this one at some point, even now. The two Wyverns over here are from doing the Dominance Offensive rep that was introduced around Throne of Thunder, where the Horde and the Alliance were fighting for the resources out there in Pandaria. Red Dragonhawk was another one of the mount-based achievements. Red Drake, that's Worm Rest. Almost everybody was getting it back at the time. Red Flying Cloud comes from Lore Walker's Exalted. This is because I gave a Scroll of Resurrection to somebody. It's not one that I'm actually on particularly frequently. I do not have any of the camel figurine mounts, unfortunately. Do have Tyrael's Charger from the Diablo 3 annual pass, like almost everybody got that. Argent Charger, actually my Pally has this, never shows up as available, but I also happen to have the Fellsteed for my Warlock, and I actually got that one back in vanilla. It doesn't show, sadly, but my Pally has the Pally mount, and my Warlock has the summonable Warlock mount. There was actually a time period in WoW where there were bosses that were not up all the time. Similar to Anzu where only a druid could get, the bosses to get the warlock mount were only accessible if a warlock was on the quest. There was also a boss in the room that Rattlegore was originally in original Skullomance. There was a shaman boss down there that a shaman can summon, and you could fight him. So the game, unfortunately, used to be a little bit more complicated back in the day. Glory of the Thundering Raider, so this is the Throne of Thunder mount over there. There's Ashes, which I will hopefully get someday. This is another one of the Malagos mounts. I would like to get that one at one point myself, considering Malagos is a easy farm. I do like some of the Alliance Tigers, like the Fell Saber and everything. Not the Fell Saber, but the one of the Saber mounts was that old vanilla chain that only the Alliance could do, and it was up here, the Frost Sabers. The Alliance could do it, and it was in this area right here where you could get them. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video here on G4G Games for Gamers about several unique and rare mounts in WoW. Of course, I don't have any of the big guns like Memoron's Head or Invincible or anything like that, but I am certainly proud of the ones I got, especially like my Ownaxe and everything that were pure luck. The amount of effort I put into Anzu and how easily I got the Riven Drake mount, which seems like my transmog really fits over here. So, take care everybody, and have yourselves a good day, and to all my fellow WoW players, certainly have a good one.